If I don't reflect on what's being asked of me, then am I going to be attentive of what I'm supposed to give back? Does that make sense? A Muslim can accomplish change in his or her heart through the mechanism of dhikr. Please hear me, my beloved students, my beloved brothers and sisters, my beloved teachers. I do not mean sitting and just repeating a word. I don't just mean mentally recollecting, okay, oh, Allah, He exists. Alhamdulillah. I mean a reflection and a contemplation of the internal reality that you are a Muslim and that you were born to serve Allah.
So last word is zikr of Allah?
Dhikr of Allah.
But it says D-I something.
Yes, sometimes you will see it with a Z and sometimes you will see it with a D.
Oh.
Okay, it's just a transliteration problem that we have.
Zikr.
Allah offers a variety of means to achieve piety, tranquility, humility, and reverence. One way to begin making dhikr is to start out by attaching your heart to Allah and by linking it to His guidance. This is when I talk about form. Those of you who have done martial arts, there is what you've got to do and there's a spirit in which you do it. There's an energy that must be attached to it. I don't really know a lot about what I'm talking about because it's been many, many years. But the sensei, when you say, ha! He wants you to say it with a certain energy, right?
Yeah. Conviction.
With a conviction.
You can say Allah.
So the form must be there with that, what you are doing for Allah. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, truly, in the body is a morsel of flesh, and if it is guided to the way of Allah, the whole body will be guided. Now let's look at this, because if our hearts have been guided, the whole body will be guided. And if your whole body is not guided and you can simply look at the things that you do in your daily life, then you will know that that morsel of flesh has not been purified. And you will know that you have not been obedient to Allah. If it is guided to the way of Allah, not the way of the nufus, not the way of desire, the whole body will be guided and follow accordingly. And if this organ is left to go astray, the whole body will follow and go astray. Truly, this organ is the heart. So do you see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us this heart has a propensity to make us lower than the animals and the beasts. There are human beings that do things that animals do not do in this world today. But then this heart has the ability to be like the angels, where that all you desire to do is to please Allah. All you desire to do is to serve Allah.
But in the Maghrib time, I hear all the bugs and birds, they start praying.
Yes, alhamdulillah. Yes.
Is that true?
That's true. They are remembering Allah. The Holy Quran says that all of the creation of Allah is remembering Him. The birds, the animals, the trees are bowing. Look at the limbs. They're all in prostration to Allah. When the heart is cleansed of all vices and enlightened by the guidance of Allah, the rest of the body and all its senses will follow accordingly. In the Arabic, there is the word wajah. And it is sometimes translated personality or self. Sometimes translated countenance. But we are supposed to submit our whole self, wajah, our whole countenance, our whole being to Allah. Every single aspect of our life is to be submitted to Allah. That is to be the intention. That every single thing I do serves Allah. Everything, without exception. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam pointed out the importance and the role of faith in the heart when he said, "Verily, faith in your hearts wears out, just as clothes do. So ask Allah to renew faith in your hearts." This is a prayer that we should put on our dash, but don't read it when you're driving. Read it at the stop sign or at the stop light. This is a prayer that perhaps needs to be on the kitchen cabinet that we look at a lot, or the mirror in the bathroom.
Which one is that? I thought it was Ayatul Kursi.
No. This is something the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam pointed out, that faith in your heart wears out. Now we know that faith, iman, fluctuates. Because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that a Muslim is one in whom you are safe from his tongue and hands. A mu'min is one in whom you can entrust your life and property. So there's a difference in the level of iman between the Muslim and the mu'min. I can go to a mu'min and say, "I am in trouble. I have a problem." And that Muslim will never squeal on me. He will never snitch. Because I can trust him with my life. And he's not going to exploit me or take advantage of me. If it is a Muslim, I'm safe from his tongue and hands. He's not going to gossip. He's not going to backbite. He's not going to do anything. He's not going to say anything about me that he wouldn't say in front of me. And sometimes, I wouldn't want somebody to say what some people have said in front of me again. And certainly there was something wrong with the heart of some of the things that have been said to my face, actually. But I want you to see here that in the latter days, one of the signs of the latter days is that our faith will fluctuate so much that in the morning we will get up and we will feel we are so close to Allah, and by the end of the day we will feel like we're not even Muslim. And we experience this sometimes. We wake up, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. Allah is the greatest. And by the end of the day, the stresses of the world and the temptations of the shaitan, it's like, oh my God. Or, you know, some people say good morning God, and some people say good morning, it's God. I mean, good morning, I need you, God. Or, oh God, it's morning. Yeah. Abu Sa'id al-Kurdi quoted the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as saying, if a man during the night wakes up his wife and then they conduct 2 rak'ah, a prayer unit, they are considered in terms of rewards and honor for that night amongst the people of dhikr, al-thakirin and al-thakirat. Dhikr utilizes the signs of Allah and His creations as means of recollection and contemplation. It's interesting because I'm going to give you a lot of verses today where we are told to ponder, reflect, contemplate, and all these things. And even ask questions. I'm going to show you 2 verses where we're told to ask questions. We live in a world today that's interesting. When you go for an interview, and I was just reading an article on this, people are now testing you for what? Critical thinking. You will never be a critical thinker if you don't contemplate. You will simply regurgitate the answer somebody gave you. How many people are in the business world that are now interviewing people and you're looking for critical thinking? Anybody? MBA back there, he's shaking his head, mashallah. And I don't mean basketball, I mean masters in business. There are more signs the Quran often alludes to which a believer contemplates. The universe, for example, is one of them. Modern science tells us that it is over 150 billion light years wide. That is something to contemplate. That is something to ponder about. How can you not be in awe of Allah when you think, wow, the expanse of this universe that Allah created, He has told us, the scientists are now telling us 150 billion light years wide. That's almost incomprehensible. Allah asks us to contemplate and to ponder and to reflect on the incomprehensible. And when we ponder and reflect, it is a form of dhikr, and it is a way of increasing our faith. Because as we reflect, we say, oh my, just look at how amazing the creation of Allah is. And our hearts are affected by that because we know that we are nothing. That we can do nothing compared with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done. The vast universe holds over 100 billion galaxies, each with billions of stars and planets. There is an eternal creation and destruction of new stars and planets. This could illustrate Judgment Day and the end of our planet. Allah knows best. Signs such as the creation of people, animals, the world, and the physical and intellectual relationships existing within all this creation are indicators and signs of His majesty, wisdom, and greatness. It's amazing. In my field, I was working with a pioneer, Dr. Tony Puente, at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, almost 30 years ago. And looking at the future of medicine, there is so much about the brain we don't know about. We cannot isolate the neurofiring of the brain right now. But eventually, inshallah, with the help of Allah, we may be able to have all kinds of cures by isolating spots in the brain. Today, it is extremely dangerous to operate on someone's brain. Just contemplate on that for a while. And let me just tell you for a moment how I contemplate. I went from being a high producer to all of a sudden one day on a bench pressing weights, I had a stroke. The blood on my brain went from the size of 1 M&M to 5. And that caused me to be completely paralyzed on one side of my body. Now you tell me about the awe of Allah. I'm standing here today and I'm teaching today and I'm speaking today. But doctor said you have a less than a 1% chance of recovery. Isn't that something to ponder and reflect on, people? Only Allah healed me. It was not in the power of medical science to heal me. It was only in the power of Allah and His shifa. Allah's signs are present everywhere. His beautiful attributes are witnessed and abide in every tiny atom of matter. They abide throughout the entire immeasurable universe. Contemplating the universe can also remind us of some other signs of Allah, such as heaven and hell and the hereafter. There are over 75 verses in the Holy Quran that speak about dhikr separately by name. Do you think that it's not a fundamental part of being a Muslim to participate in dhikr if it is in 75 verses in the Quran? Have I lost you? These verses speak of and reflect on this subject in a variety of ways. There are hundreds of other places where dhikr is mentioned by implication, through glorification and reflection. Aren't you glad I didn't take you through every single verse? You know, I would like to have done that actually. That's how I roll. Let's look at Surah 22, Al-Hajj, verse 46. Do they not travel through the land so that their hearts may thus understand and learn wisdom, and their ears may thus hear? Truly, it is not their eyes that are blind, but their heart, which are in their breast. Help me out, folks. What does this say? What does it say, Dr. Sadia?
That you should comprehend what is around you as a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Believer?
Well, no, what I mean is it's a proof. Okay?
As a sign?
Yeah, as a sign. As a sign of things.
So what keeps us away from our heart connecting to Allah? Look at this, ears and eyes. Our five senses can keep us away from Allah, because when we are dealing with Allah, we are dealing in the unseen realm. And we need to contemplate on the unseen, because our eyes will delude us. When you look out your front door in the morning and you see the sun, it looks like a plate suspended in the sky. And I use this example all the time because it's real for me. And we think, oh, look how small the sun is. I'm on this big earth. But then we know that the sun is 160,000 times larger than the earth. But yet it's so far away it looks like a plate. And yet we think we can understand that. Do we spend as much time contemplating on Allah as we do those kind of things even? Because it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that made that so. So it's not what your eyes do or what your hands do. It's because there is a disease in your heart, people. You can't blame your eyes, although they're going to testify against you on the day of judgment, because they're going to say, they told me to look at that pornography. They told me to do this and to do that, and so on and so forth. Surah 51, Ad-Dariyat, verse 20 and 21. On earth are signs for those of assured faith, as also in your own selves. Will you not then see? Dhikr is one of the ways to have assured faith. It's like having an insurance policy. When you are reflecting and contemplating on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will assure your faith. It will validate your faith. It will reinforce your faith. Because you are actually pondering and reflecting on your Creator. It reminds me of studying. And as many of you know, I have 3 master's degrees. In order to get the material, I'm not the brightest bulb in the box or the sharpest knife in the drawer. I had to study hard. And I had to study and study and study so that I could understand something. Now imagine how much more I need to comprehend and study and reflect on the vastness of what Allah has done. Doesn't compare to anything I ever did in any college course. In Surah 20, Surah Taha, verse 128, is it not a warning to such people to call to mind how many generations before them we destroyed in those haunts where they now move? Verily in this are signs for people endued with understanding. If you have an understanding of Allah, you will not keep repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again. They say that is the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and over again and not learning from it. Surah 59, verse 21. If we set down this Quran on a mountain, verily you would have seen it humble itself and cleave asunder in awe of Allah. The very Quran is in awe of Allah. The very speech of Allah is in awe of Allah. Such are the analogies that we propound to people so that they may reflect. Yes, brother.
I don't know if it's hadith or not, but he also said an option was if the Quran said God on earth and not accept the split, he's not, he can't handle it.
Exactly. It would crush. It would go into powder. Surah 7, verse 202. So when you have accomplished your holy rite, celebrate the praises of Allah as you used to celebrate the praises of your fathers. Yeah, with far more heart and soul. You see, the heart and the soul of the matter must be involved in the intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is part of the form. This is part of the way that it must be done. You know, if we look at the world, we see that people, we say this, oh, I went to see such and such a person perform, and they sang their heart out. Anybody ever heard that before? They sang their heart out. How many of us have sang our heart out for Allah? How many of us have worn our heart out in contemplation for Allah?
What do you mean by heart out?
Giving everything you've got.
Oh.
Mind, soul, and body. Wholehearted.
Heart is black.
This is a heart-soothing and culminating verse. On a daily basis, every Muslim will benefit by having a silent, personal, hearty, self-accountability meeting with Allah. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did this every single night when he retired. A perfect man, when he went to bed, would sit there and say, what did I do right and what did I do wrong? What did I do that didn't please Allah and what did I do that pleased Allah? This was the perfect man that did this. How many of us, even when we lay down, say, Subhanallah. Thank you, Allah, for this bed that you've given me and this roof over my head and this AC in Orlando, Florida.
Once in a while.
On a daily basis, every Muslim will benefit by having a silent, personal, hearty, self-accountability meeting with Allah morning and evening to share the concerns of Allah that this verse speaks of. Muslims should make this verse a daily practice. Dhikr of Allah is not just moving lips and the tongue with the praises of Allah with an absent mind and heart. The right form of dhikr means that the heart and the mind must be present. My mind is contemplating on the awe of Allah, and my heart is present with Allah in the divine presence of Allah. Dhikr of Allah is that beautiful feeling and deep satisfaction produced when a person conducts dhikr with complete concentration of one's heart and mind. You see, if you're doing dhikr and you're not doing it with the right form in the way that Allah has said to do it with heart and soul, it won't mean very much to you. And you'll wonder, why am I not getting anything out of this? The same way that when you go to pray the 5 daily prayers, if you don't pray them with khushu'ah, and right now I teach a prayer class at 10 o'clock in the mornings, and mashallah, there's some people here that come to that prayer class. But keep in remembrance the name of your Lord and devote yourself to Him wholeheartedly. What is the form? How are we supposed to do it? Wholeheartedly. What does that mean, folks? Help me out. What does it mean to do something wholeheartedly?
Full attention.
I see people play sports and it looks wholeheartedly. They put everything into it. But when they go to pray, do they do it wholeheartedly? When they go to make dhikr, do they do it wholeheartedly? I'm talking to myself too. I'm preaching to me.
How do you play sports?
Surah 63 verse 9. No, I don't play sports. And nobody wants to play sports with me either. O you who believe, let not your riches or your children divert you from the remembrance of Allah. If any do so, the loss is their own. And this is speaking to what Mommy is saying. Yes, you can be rich, but don't let it divert you from the remembrance of Allah. There are many more forms of dhikr. Prayers during the night, supplication, meditation, and contemplation, as well as reading and studying the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dhikr increases faith, enlightens our inner selves, brings people closer to Allah, and yields tranquility and joy in the heart. Self-satisfaction and comfort can be actualized only when a person maintains Allah in his or her heart and pleases Him. Surah 8 verse 2, undoubtedly believers are those who, when Allah is mentioned, their hearts tremble, and when they hear His verses rehearsed, find their faith strengthened and put all their trust in their Lord. You see, if you're doing dhikr right, if you're reading the Quran right, your faith will be strengthened. Your iman will be strengthened. You will move from Muslim to mu'min. You will move from Islam to ihsan. This kind of deep faith in Allah will result in less inclination to use the world simply to collect money and achieve power. Dhikr of Allah is a primary ingredient in making a true believer who epitomizes all moral virtues. Triumph and prosperity in life are directly related to the degree of practice of the virtues of this school of spiritual guidance called tazkiyah. Tazkiyah to nafs. Surah 87 verses 14 and 15. But the ultimate success, falah, or prosperity in the highest sense, is for the one who purifies oneself in spiritual guidance and remembers, glorifies, and meditates on the name of one's guardian Lord to enhance one's spirituality, and then performs the prayer. Surah 87 verse 14 to 15. Look at this, folks. You want to improve your prayer life? Make dhikr. But do it with the right form, wholeheartedly, O Allah. Glory to you, Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. Tazkiyah is the foundation not only of trust, but also goodness and honest relationships. Dhikr of Allah is the cornerstone for loving Allah and practicing the virtues and traits of His attributes. Dhikr of Allah clears away all corruption and mischief, and this is truly the gateway to prosperity, and I'm talking about spiritual prosperity here. In a hadith Qudsi, words of inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, expressed by the mind and tongue of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I am in the company of my servant as long as he remembers me, and his lips move because of his remembrance of me. How many of you want to be in the very presence of Allah? When I talk about being in the divine presence of Allah, this is what I'm talking about. When your contemplation is so wholeheartedly done that you actually feel your connection with Allah. You're in awe of Allah, and your heart is affected. One of the authentic hadiths says that the believer should keep their lips moist by the remembrance of Allah. What better company could one wish for? Muslims tend to go so deeply into their business affairs that the worldly ones become a hindrance to worshiping Allah and seeking tazkiyah for their hearts. There is no justification for allowing business or family affairs to obstruct the spiritual development of tazkiyah. In Surah 48 verse 11, the desert Arabs who lagged behind will say to you, we were engaged in looking after our flocks and herds and our families. Do then ask forgiveness for us. They say with their tongues what is not in their hearts. You see, a lot of people will say my intention was good. I was looking after my family. What does the verse say? It's got to come from the heart. It can't be in the tongue. The heart's got to be connected to every single thing, folks. Obligations, including prayers, are the means to accomplish dhikr of Allah. Allah ordained it. In Surah 20 verse 14, and establish regular prayer for remembering, for praising me. Even pilgrimage, Hajj, is designed to accomplish dhikr. In the Hajj, we say, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik. MashaAllah. You hear all the men doing this out loud, and it makes you vibrate. It's so powerful. Here I am at your service, O Allah. But not just with the tongue. I have spent, in America, probably $8,000 to $10,000 to go to Hajj. I've tried to write all my relationships and ask people to forgive me. I've tried to get all my debts paid before I came here. It wasn't just with my lips. Wholeheartedly, I had to prepare for going to Hajj. In Surah 22, verse 27 to 28, and proclaim the pilgrimage among men. They will come to you on foot and mounted on every kind of animal, lean on account of journeys through deep and distant mountain highways, so that they may witness the benefits provided for them and celebrate the name of Allah through the days appointed. You know, I'll never forget when I was coming from the Miqat, getting to the Miqat, which is one of the stations of entrance to put on Ihram, seeing people that had walked from Yemen to Hajj, people that had walked, I believe it's 800 to 1,000 miles, on foot, folks. And let me tell you, if anyone has ever been to Saudi Arabia, this is not an easy terrain to manage, and it gets very cool at night and very hot in the day. But people put their whole selves into fulfilling that right. They didn't go. Let me tell you, you can get online and you can find Hajj packages with air conditions, luxury, everything's done for you, everything, you got everything. But these people put their whole heart into getting Hajj.
To be honest, I don't think you could count schools. That's why I feel like there are stories of people just, the wealthiest are just being literally carried to their destination.
Yeah.
Everyone else has to walk.
Well, there are some people. Come on in, George. Welcome. Have a seat. George just did his Shahada last Sunday, mashallah. Right after the class. Alhamdulillah, so we're very happy to have you, George.
He lost his big black hat.
Oh, you lost your cat?
Hat.
Hat. Oh, if anybody sees a black hat, it belongs to George. Okay? Alright. Tazkiyah and dhikr of Allah in Islam is often neglected in the lives of many Muslims today. For those who seek to tread the way of the Prophet ﷺ, it is incumbent on them to adapt their lives to include these spiritual components. This contributes to the purification of inner self, tazkiyah, one of the essential fundamentals of Islamic development and the well-being of mankind. Just as the body needs food to stay healthy, the soul too needs its spiritual nourishment. Muslims today must earnestly consider tazkiyah and dhikr as priorities in their lives. To seek knowledge is a sacred duty. It is obligatory on every Muslim, male and female. The first word revealed of the Quran was Iqra, Bismillah. Iqra was the first word. Read in the name of your Lord. Seek knowledge. Educate yourself. Be educated. In order to be educated, you have to contemplate. You have to reflect. We have at least 2 doctors in the room today. They didn't learn about anatomy and biology without reflecting and contemplating. Am I right? Dr. Sadia? Yes. They didn't just look in the book and say, oh, well, that's that part and that part and that part, and I got it, and take the test. They had to think about what it meant and how it connected to something else. Surah 96, verse 1 through 4, read in the name of your Lord, only God and sustainer, cherisher, who created created man out of a leech-like clot. Read, and your robe is most beautiful. He who taught the use of the pen taught man that which he knew not. Over and over in the Quran, I can't emphasize this enough. Talk, understand, ponder, reflect. It is an obligation. It is a hukam. It is an order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Surah 39 verse 9, are those equal, those who know and those who do not know? Surah 2 verse 269, Allah grants wisdom to whom He pleases, and to whom wisdom is granted indeed, he receives an overflowing benefit. How do you get wisdom, folks? You get wisdom by applying what Allah has given you. Wisdom is said to be applied knowledge, contemplated knowledge, not just doing it without a heart. Wisdom comes with doing it with a heart and seeing the result from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being convicted of that. That's the difference between the kalima and the shahada. The shahada is the words, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasuluh. But the kalima is when I am convicted of that, I have pondered that, I have reflected that, I have practiced that, I have lived that. And it is an internal part of me that I can't even express. It's so powerful. At first I can tell you just the words, but after I get into really what the Shahada is and what it encompasses, there's no way I could ever explain it if I gave you my life. I'll teach it, but it's so deep. Allah commands us to know. And this word know, folks, is not just I know something like, yeah, I know this is a form of yellow. But it's to know by experience. It's to know by practice. I like to say to know that you know that you know.